And good day. Thank you for joining us. I am Tamara Scott here with Truth for Our Time as we help you live God's Word in today's world. Helping you when the headlines hit home. And my goodness, this week, there have been plenty of headlines hitting our homes. And we just help you figure out how they're going to impact you and how you live through it. Because here's the deal. If God expects you to live through it, He's directed you how to do it. So we are glad to try and help you with that each week here on 99.3 FM. If you're listening Sunday at noon, this is our Mother's Day show. And if you're popping in with us when we're live, Friday mornings, 10 a.m., we're in the studio at webcastonelive.com. Webcastonelive.com. We thank Mac for sharing the studio with us and 99.3 for sharing the air with us. Always our honor. You know, I don't take this lightly. When God gives you a microphone, it's your responsibility to make sure that not just that you talk, but that the words you speak have wisdom. And so I pray that somehow, in the words we give you every week, you will be uplifted, encouraged, challenged, sometimes comforted, but never complacent. You'll hear me in the show with that each week. I'm excited. Our guest today is Gail McWilliams. So if you're hearing this, if you've ever heard Gail McWilliams, you know you're going to laugh. You're going to be encouraged. You're going to be inspired. You're going to be challenged, just like I talked to you. Here is a woman who no longer has her eyesight, but she has great vision. She sees more clearly into her future and into the things she faces each day than some of us who have full sight. And I am so excited and honored to be able to have her as our guest as we talk about motherhood. Who better? Because if you've not heard the story, and I'll have Gail share it a little bit more fully, but Gail knew with each birth of her children, she would cause damage to her own eyesight. And for her, the life of a child was worth more than her own sight. It's an amazing story. And I will look forward to that. And I'm giving you time to get plugged in, tune in, tell the kids, quiet down. Here it is, Mother's Day. I know. You can always come back and hear this. The archives. We'll have them at tamarascott.com. tamarascott.com. I try and get them on there. I'm not always great at getting that done in a timely fashion because I'm busy just like you. And you can also get them on our Facebook page. And everything I'm going to talk about today, Gail's website, some of the other stories I have are already on the Truth for Our Time Facebook page. So they're already there for you to go and listen to. So I'm going to run through some of the things real quickly that we've had this week. And my goodness, what a week it's been. We had a nominee somewhat decided. It looks like we'll have a nominee in the Republican Party. No matter how you feel about that, I'm you. My good friend Gary Miller, Gail's friend as well, has a ministry called Talk Less, Pray More. I'm just asking you, talk less, pray more. Seek the Lord before you start sputtering and saying angry things. Seek the Lord. And no matter who is our leader, let's try and encourage and head them the right direction, just like we would our children. Otherwise, we had the day of prayer at the Capitol. I know we had a meeting there. I was not there because I was in Taylor County standing with our Senator Grassley, who is being hit and harassed by folks from, I hear, MoveOn.org. I hate to even give them any credit. Other groups, there were others there who are harassing him. Oh my goodness, you are just as good as your dad. I have a producer sitting in for Chris today, and she's every bit on top of it, every bit as much as Chris. Maddie, thank you so much for sitting in with us. The photo, for those of you watching online, is Senator Grassley, Janae Strick from Concerned Women for America, and myself. Concerned Women for America, Susan B. Anthony, and Our Right to Life dropped off 3,710 petitions to the senator's office downtown last Tuesday. It was covered shortly, briefly, at NBC Channel 13 News. And here's why. Grassley is the chair of the judiciary. The judiciary in the Senate is the only stopgate between a president having a runaway control of a court. This is not an obstacle. He's not doing his job. And there's another photo on there, I don't know if you can see it, of the truck telling Grassley to do his job. He is doing his job. Unfortunately, those of you just don't understand it because you don't know your Constitution very well. He is doing his job. The Senate is there to protect us from in the separation of powers, the balance of powers, the separation of branches, Grassley and the Senate are to stop an executive branch from taking control of the judicial branch. They are that stop gate. They have full consent or not. They choose whether or not to give a hearing. And he has, as we've seen in precedent from Joe Biden, nonetheless, in a year of a presidential campaign when things are running high, emotions are high, in the recent history, we have not had nominations go forward because there's too many other irons in the fire that can interfere with actual justice. The Supreme Court is not to be an extension of a president to push a social agenda. It is to be its own branch to protect the Constitution through justice. And we thank Senator Grassley. If you want to sign one of those petitions, that link is on the Truth for Our Time Facebook. That right there, okay, so that photo, thank you so much, is another group of petitions as well. We handed in 3,710 last Tuesday, and you can sign those on Concerned Women for America, CWFA.org, or you can go to the Truth for Our Time Facebook page. Or the photo right there you see is another set that came, 4,000 that came to my door yesterday. And these will be going to Senator Mitch McConnell, encouraging him to stand with our own Senator Grassley. And today, as we speak, on Friday, people are meeting in Decatur County, Ringgold County, because these folks are coming in, we hear, from out of state to harass our senator for doing his job because they don't understand the Constitution, or if they do, they don't like it. Well, thank you, Senator Grassley, for standing strong and being the stop gate from a president who has overstepped his authority too many times, which is likely why Republicans were elected into office 2014 for just such a time as this. All right. I've got some other announcements you should go to our Truth for Our Time page and check out. We also have that the issue on the forced vaccinations, very, very dangerous. We also have Holocaust. Yesterday was the day of remembrance for our friends from Israel and our Holocaust survivors that might still be with us. We will never forget, and we will never allow it to happen again. If you don't know much about it, please discuss it, learn about it, read about it from credible sources, and then talk to your children about it so that we are not doomed to repeat history again. All right, now I'm going to jump to my guests. Gail, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited. When I was kind of chatting with the Lord throughout the week and asking who could I have that would encourage and inspire and not just lightheartedly, but give us the truth of the grit of motherhood, you popped on my Facebook, and I was so pleased you were available. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Tamara. It's my joy. Happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Yes, absolutely. And many will be hearing this on Sunday on noon while they're getting ready and preparing for lunch with their families. It is the day that moms are celebrated. And how fitting. Gail, when I ask you to do this, well, first off, let's go back. We've got just a couple minutes before we go to break. Let's tell people who Gail McWilliams is.
Well, I am Gail McWilliams from Dallas, Texas. I'm originally from the Midwest, moved to Dallas in 2000. In the Midwest, I learned how to speak. 2000, when I moved to Texas, I learned how to talk, Tamara, and there's a big old difference. And we are hoping today to encourage people. I am a motivational, inspirational speaker, a national speaker, international speaker. I'm a published author, and I also have a national radio feature across the nation. I think we're currently in 200 stations across the nation.
I hear 200 stations, 38 states, and you have 75 speaking engagements a year.
And I love people, and I love to encourage people, and I think that's what we're going to get to do today, to help people see a bigger vision than they've ever seen before.
Absolutely. And so, folks, we're going to take our first break here shortly, but I want you, if you can at all, take time out to listen to this, make plans to listen to it on the archive if you need to, but maybe you need to call a friend during this break and have them tune in, because every mom out there today needs encouragement. There's so much pressure coming at us. So when we come back, we are going to encourage moms to stand strong. I am Tamara Scott, Truth for Our Time, 99.3 FM, Webcast One Live Studios.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
And I am Tamara Scott, returning with Truth for Our Time. I am so honored and happy to have Gail McWilliams online today talking to moms. Gail has a recent book out, just several books out, that being Seeing Beyond, when she talks about engulfing fear and the freeing faith that came in place of it, Stuck or Positioned, and her newest book. I think, Gail, was this just released yesterday?
It was. Yesterday it hit Amazon, and we're really excited.
Hope
It's called
Sees.
Hope Sees, Beyond Obstacles, Challenges, and Disappointments. And wouldn't that pretty much talk about the journey of a mother?
So let's tell our listeners, for those who might not know, you have 5 beautiful children, very talented, gifted children, but for you, having children was never recommended.
We do. When I was a young girl, I was diagnosed with a childhood disease, and so the doctor told me then, he said, you probably won't live to be 30. Well, I'm a few days beyond 30, and I actually have 5 children, 4 daughters and a son. My husband, Tony McWilliams, and I have been married for 38 years. In fact, we just celebrated our anniversary. We got married on the most romantic day of the year, which most would think was Valentine's Day. No, it was April 15th, income tax day. But in the middle of all of the taxing times, literally, and the things that we've been through, God has been so good to us. But what happened, if I can just jump to a couple of critical moments, is when I was carrying our second child. There's so much more to our story, and that's why I wrote the book, Seeing Beyond. I tell the story in great detail. I'm very, very candid in it. And Zig Ziglar did the foreword to it, which I'm most grateful for. And, in fact, he was the encourager to tell the world our story, and here we are still telling them. But when we had our children, and, again, I was pregnant with the second child. I was nearly 4 months pregnant when the doctors came in after a day of grueling tests. It was at a famous hospital in the Midwest. They had detected something going on in one of my eyes. And so after a painful, like I said, grueling and long day of tests, I was sitting in the doctor's exam room, and he came in and he said, Gail, you have to choose today between your baby or your eyes. And I just looked at him and I said, well, the choice is made. I choose my baby. The doctor stood up, slammed shut my folder, and said, what a foolish decision. And he left the room. And I have to tell you, Tamara, I sat there thinking, you know what? I didn't know the consequences of what would come, but I was pretty confident I'd made the right decision. And as I sat there not knowing what was going to come. I remembered thinking of a verse that someone had shared with me as a young girl, and suddenly, I didn't even know it was in my heart, but suddenly it just sprung up in my mind, and it said, it was all about choices, that I've set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Choose life that you and your descendants might live. Mm-hmm. So when I left his office that day, it began the journey of something that in the natural became more and more dim, because with each of my children, literally, I gradually lost more and more eyesight. But it was literally in my darkest hour that vision was birthed. And when you have vision, you can see in the darkest places of life. And in fact, I find that most people live life based only on what they see. And when you live life based only on what you see, it can be limiting and definitely discouraging. But when you begin to live with vision, hey, the sky's the limit. And one of the things, as we're really focusing even on mothers today and motherhood, I think a mother has to have vision for her children. If you're only going by what you see with that child, you could be a little bit discouraged and for sure in confusion going, what happened here? It seemed like an experiment at times gone awry, with different hormonal changes or personality changes or all of the different things that happen, between a sweet little innocent child to those teenage years. And even maybe we're talking to a mom with newborns. You're exhausted, and you think, how am I going to do this? And you're going to do it one day at a time. It's His grace that will be with you, and hopefully friends, support group around you, a church family that loves you through it. But it's the moments that we cannot miss. And one of the things that I often say is we have to have a vision for generations yet to come. And I'll say this, too, that, I'm often asked, Gail, why would you do it? Why would you go on? Why would you have children if you knew the risk was so great? And I really think what I'm being asked is, how did I choose between convenience and legacy? And for me, legacy wins every time.
No doubt there was concern, fear. Those of us who have survived motherhood, it is a challenge beyond anything we'll ever face. I've often said it deserves combat pay. And and when you finally think you've about figured it out, you've worked your way out of a job if you've done it well.
So true. And it goes so fast. It
goes so fast. But when you're in the midst of it with little laundry up to your eyeballs, trying to mate socks, dirty diapers, food, all of it. It is not an easy task, and it is often underrated and not appreciated in today's culture, which is why I wanted to have you on, Gail, because it is so worth every moment of the battle if you do it well, if you stay in the fight, and if you have, I would say you'll have more influence on anything than, look, I work with legislators, I work with lawmakers, I work with authors, writers, vocalists, singers, everything on this show, and I'm so blessed to get to do it. But there's no law that will be written, no song that will be sung, no book that will have more impact on the future than what a mother can have on her children.
That is so true. And even though we started with my story, and it's a remarkable story, it's a gripping story, and it's really where I learned not only, the fight for having children, because the odds were definitely against us, and sometimes doctors were against us. And yet there was such a desire, based on the scriptures of Psalms 127 and 128, that children were like arrows in the hands of a mighty warrior. And it's interesting when you think about an arrow being placed in your hand. It has potential, but if you're just given an arrow, it has to also have the right fittings of that arrow before it's even in the bow. And it's the sharpening of the point. It's the straightening out, the middle part of the arrow. It's the fletchings at the end of the arrow that you have to make sure are upright and in the right place. Otherwise, the arrow is just going to spin around in circles, fly around in circles, aimlessly, going nowhere. And I think what's happening in our culture, we have adults who are aimlessly going nowhere. They don't understand they've been strategically positioned for this hour. They fail to see the potential of this hour, and they're always waiting for something else to happen. What if what you've been given today, you've been asked to make not only something of it, but in the middle of it, enrich your lives, that it can be a spillover to so many others. And that's what's happening in our homes. And so what we get discouraged over is sometimes the training process. What does it take to sharpen a child with their manners, their etiquette? But more than that, teaching them principles, teaching them the things that they need to understand that is the reason behind something. I love the verse out of Proverbs where it says, when you have understanding, it will keep you. So I feel like so many times we have a lot of knowledge, but we don't have understanding. And maybe that's where we need to start with the role of a mother. If you could understand, you're influencing the next generation. I heard a statistic not long ago that talked about, all the beautiful things that we might say to a child, but really in their life, what they usually remember are those times of conflict or those times of watching you in the middle of stress and what was said then.
Right.
And if a parent could understand that life is in your words. I think a typical parent usually says to a child at some point in parenthood, well, why did you do that? Believe me, if a child knew that, they probably wouldn't do it because there were consequences, right? Or we just ask silly questions instead of maybe directing the conversation to say, you know what? You're a gift to this world. You're an asset to this family. You are treasured. You have potential. I love to learn the meaning of names. I did that with all of our children because I could call them by something more than just their name. I could remind them that their name is connected with virtue.
Right.
Like our daughter Anna, a gracious gift. Our daughter Lindy, a refreshing one. Our daughter Holly, pure in heart. And when you begin to just expand who your children are, you not only have a greater understanding and love for them, but your children have a sense of purpose, even from the cradle on into their adult life.
And your teaching is so wise and instructive, and I think maybe because families are so separated by miles and distance and just busy schedules, there doesn't seem to be the extended help for young moms that there used to be. And I think it's so critical. We have someone who's running for office who wrote a book years ago called It Takes a Village to Raise a Child. And my first, if I failed, it was the book that I felt like I should have written was, have you seen The Village lately? It's what I'm protecting my children from. You don't need a village. You need a family. You need family who have the same values and beliefs that you do that will lift you up and encourage you in your work. You've mentioned the verse about speaking life. And if I could talk to moms about that, what you said was that the busyness. I'll tell you what. Just this week, I just listed some of the busy things I've done this week. Just this week, I had a woman in a short time, 3 minutes of conversation, share, I don't think she even realized she was doing it, how her father and mother had never praised her. When her dad was 90-some years old, he still had her ACT or SAT scores in his hand. And I said, maybe he was proud of you. And she rolled her eyes and said, he never said it. When she was a valedictorian in her college class, she was looking, she said, she thought, now my mom will have to say something positive to me. When I saw my mother, she said, head to the car. This woman is still hurting, and I'm telling you, she's a senior. I would say she's past 50, if that's okay. She's still hurting from the remarks that were made and were never made as a child.
That is a really sad story.
I know. And in 3 minutes, she shared all this with me, and I could hear her wounds. And so to every mom out there, Gail mentioned the verse about speaking life. We're all busy. We get caught up. But when you talk to your kids, we all hear it in the stores. When you talk to your kids, don't threaten them. Help them. Guide them. Give them a positive. Give them a reason why not to. But I hear it so often in the stores. We're just going to leave. These threats, they talk at children, not to children. Help your children understand. There's another Proverbs 14:1 that says, a wise woman builds her house, but with her own words or hands, a foolish woman will tear it down. And I see that so often because we're so busy and because motherhood has been so belittled.
Well, one of the things that I want to mention is that, in all fairness to a mom, so many times there's many things coming at us.
Right.
We're tired, we're lonely, we're under pressure. Usually there's a financial tug of war going on home when you're raising children. They're expensive. I get that. But in the middle of all of it, maybe what we can encourage mothers to do today is take a moment to make sure that you're strong, that you understand you have value, and that you have purpose. And it's going to be the overflow of that it's about a journey. It's not just about trying to get through a day. And isn't that usually what happens? You know, we're under pressure, we snap at someone. And even in those times where that happens, and it will happen, even after the show, people listening to us, but there's a moment of turning back to say, would you please forgive me? Mm-hmm. I know my words must have hurt you. Mm-hmm. And to start over, there's something that is extremely powerful when a parent humbles themselves to a child.
And you're teaching. You're teaching your children it's okay to apologize.
Exactly. And, you know, there's a difference between saying, I'm sorry. You know, it's the tone of voice. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. But when you say, would you please forgive me for my impatience? Would you please forgive me that I was harsh with you? Those are the things that really can win a heart. And isn't that what you want to do as a parent? Have the heart of your children all the days of their life.
And I think sometimes as parents, we feel like we have to be perfect. We have to have all the answers. Your kids don't want you to be perfect. They don't want you to have the answers. They really, Gail, I figured this out, thankfully, before I had kids. They really just want your time. They want your attention. They want to know that you are in their camp. You are their advocate.
So true. I can come in off the road from speaking for several weeks, you know, standing ovations, thousands of people, and I come home and my children, they don't care about any of that. They just want me to just be with them, to love them. And it's interesting, too, you know, I'm known as the encourager, the motivator. And a lot of times when I start in with my kids to say that, they'll say, Mom, we don't want that side of you right now. We just want you to listen. And I'm like, I'm listening, but I know I could encourage you, too. But at that moment, it's really discerning what is the need of your children. You know, my children all came sort of a hard way, not only fighting for their lives and, of course, losing my eyesight gradually with each of the children. And I must say, they're our children. We've been feeding them for years and paying for their education, so I'm only assuming, even though I can't see them, I'm pretty sure they're ours. But all of the children came by cesarean birth, so I always say my children keep me in stitches. And, you know, that alone, you come home after a cesarean, you've got a lot of children in the house. One of the things that we had to learn to do was work together as a team, to assemble the team. And really, when I think about a mother's role, it's protecting life, you know, treasuring life, speaking life, but you're a manager. You multitask, obviously.
Oh, yes.
And you're exactly right, as you said at the beginning of the show. I mean, no one can pay really what we're worth. And we're still learning on the job. It's constant training. And then to get it in one season, the seasons change. But right. I want to say to everyone listening to us, yes, we're focused on mothers, but really everyone listening to us, there's not only grace for the season, but you must have a vision for the season. Because what you're doing today is preparing what's coming next.
And so, Gail, when people hear you say you must have a vision, to someone out there, how do they go about that vision if they don't know, if they're not sure what their future looks like, if even as believers sometimes we're unsure what is direction from distraction? There are so many great causes we can be involved in. How give moms out there some advice if they've never thought about a vision, maybe they're not a believer. How do you help a mom find some vision?
Well, first, let's start with the mom herself. You are an individual, and you have purpose, and you have value. No matter what you've been through in the past, here's the great news. There is a Redeemer who forgives you as far as the east is from the west. And I think sometimes where the anger, the impatience comes from is we haven't forgiven ourselves. People love to live life looking in the rearview mirror, and they're always bumping into things because they can't let go of the past. And I want to say to you, it's a new day. You can let go of the past. And so knowing that you have value, knowing that you have purpose, guess what? You've given birth, or possibly you've adopted a child, or maybe you're a foster parent. It doesn't matter. You have new life within your home that you get to cultivate and groom. because they will move forward from this place, and you are a main voice in the tapestry of their life. So knowing that your role has purpose, you have purpose, and the very child you're taking care of has purpose. Now, that's a win-win situation, and I'll tell you why. You're not just existing and surviving. No, you have value. And somebody might be listening today saying, well, I don't feel like I have value for the very reason in the story that you just told. Words have been said over people to say, you'll never amount to anything, you can't do this, that dream is crazy or whatever. And if you continue to let those tapes run in your head, you will always be defeated. But here's some tapes that I'd like you to exchange that can be in your head. And it's from the designer of life himself, who says, I'm for you, I'm not against you, I will never forsake you, I've called you by name, I've given you new mercies. Every morning when the sun comes up, there's a new bundle of mercies he gives to us. The Lord himself goes before us, he walks beside us, and the glory of the Lord is our rear guard. You're being followed by goodness and mercy. He's encamped his angels all around you, and he's promised that he would surround you with favor like a shield. Now, this is a good place to start any day. And when you understand who you are and who's designed you and the purpose that you have in your life, listen, every day has a different total meaning because you understand this isn't a day I just have to get through. No, I get to make a deposit today, not only in my children's lives, but in the lives that they'll touch eventually.
Gail McWilliams is my guest. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages with more encouragement for you moms in the battlefield, raising those kids. There's no more difficult task, and we want to help you through it. Stay tuned.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
And thanks for staying tuned. I am Tamara Scott. You're listening either in live 10 a.m. Friday morning on Webcast One Live Studios or 99.3 FM Sunday at noon. We thank Gail McWilliams for joining us. If you've heard her story, it is amazing. If you ever get a chance to hear her speak, it is worth the drive. You will be encouraged, you will be challenged, you will be inspired, and you'll be reminded that you too, not just Gail, but you too have a vision, have a purpose from the Lord. You heard several of those things she said right before we went to break. Those are scripture verses in God's word to you. His word is always truthful and never changing. And so those promises stand for you. We were just talking before we went to break about some of those things that women and men all have to overcome because of things that happened in the home. The vitality of the mother, the role of the mother, the importance. And Gail, today moms are pulled so many different directions. Many have to work outside the home. Now, this is not a judgment on those who do. Some can handle it very, very well. Myself, I knew I could not. I knew I needed to keep myself geared at home, though I was very busy doing a lot of things while raising my children that also impacted my culture because to me they fit all together nicely. But Gail, what would you say, for those women, they're looking for more input and importance in the boardroom, equality on the paycheck, authority in the workplace. And for me, I just think you'll never have more influence than in the home place. When those employees walk out the door, you're no longer the person they may adore. But your children, absolutely, that's a possibility if you have your role and in right measure.
Well, you're right. Our schedules are overbooked. I mean, life is crazy busy for all of us. And again, if I could just go back to most people try to survive and exist. Just get through the day, get that next promotion, or have someone applaud them and someone see that they are significant. And a part of it is because of the very things we talked about today, the tapes that run in their head or the words that have crushed them as a child, and now they're adult looking for affirmation. But I want to encourage you about something, and forgive me, it will sound self-serving because it really is the 3 books that I currently have out. One is To See Beyond, and that's our story. It's been difficult not only as a mother, not being able to see and gradually losing your children, but one of the things I struggled with the most is I felt like I had no value anymore. I mean, how could I ever be the wife my husband needed? How could I ever be the mother my children needed? And for sure, no one was going to call on me to carpool. I've had situations that have been embarrassing and awkward. I've walked out with the wrong man before. I've gotten in the wrong car. I've corrected the wrong children in front of their parents, thinking they were my children. I have, talked to people who aren't there, and I've reached out to hug people, and I've gotten the wrong body parts before. I mean, it's all awkward, and yet here I am. I'm supposed to know more than my children, and I'm supposed to be the leader, and I don't even know where I'm going. And I think the day that I realized that my value didn't have anything to do with my performance, but my value had to do with who I was, it put me at peace. Then I realized, wow, I'm a visionary who's been dropped into a visual world that's gone blind. I suddenly had a purpose and a mission. And I also knew that I had my children for a short season. So it's really leading to the question you asked me, how do you really prioritize what's going on in your life? Jobs come and go, positions come and go, but it's you who has value. And no matter where you work, no matter what you do, you'll never be paid what you're really worth. So just know that everything that you're doing has charity attached to it because you're very valuable. And you can be grateful for that paycheck and whatever you have to do, but don't live life with a grudge going, oh, I can't get out of this place, which brings me really to my second book I wrote. It's called Stuck or Positioned. It's Your Choice. And the reason I want to bring that up isn't so much to plug the book, but it's the theme. You may think as a mom, you may think as a on your way to a VP of an organization or a CEO of an organization, you may be thinking, there's so much you have to do, you can't get it all done, and yet you feel this urgency about you. And I want to say to you, the job will be there at the end of the day. Your children probably won't. Mm-hmm. And so is there any way at all that you can prioritize your day to know, okay, this is a season. I think anybody can endure anything if you know it's for a season. And so in the season of raising your children, is there a way that you could manage your schedule in such a way that they at least believe that they're priority? And those are moments that you can tuck away or things that you can do. You know, I had challenges all around me. How can I do special things with the children? And, of course, Tony and I work together. My husband and I work together. But how can I, as a mother, do special things? And I found out that I'm very creative. I was innovative. In fact, I just heard one of my older daughters recently say on a video, we had a New York crew come out to do a documentary on their story. And she said, we never knew our mom couldn't see. She said she taught us how to see a world that most people couldn't see. And so I say all of this not to put the highlight on me, but to say to you, if I can, you can. And so in a world where everyone's scrambling, you know, to get that job, and especially a lot of people have a mentality that women have, you know, they don't have a fair shake or they can't get where they need to be. I just don't believe that. And I'll tell you why I don't believe that. Because the scriptures say your gift will make a way for you. Show up. Show up in life. Show up as a mom. Show up in that school meeting that you have to be at. Show up in the church committee or wherever you've been asked to serve. Show up at work. Show up as a leader. And guess what? Doors will open to you that you couldn't even begin to imagine. Show up. And in the meantime, you're going to have some peace and enjoy the journey. Why? Because you know you have value. And again, you're not stuck, but you've been strategically positioned for this hour.
Powerful words, Gail McWilliams. If those of you had not heard Gail before, Gail McWilliams, just like it sounds, GailMcWilliams.com. Hope Sees is her latest book, and they can get that on Amazon. But they can also
get all the books on Amazon.
And they can go to your website as well and get those books, right?
Yes, and there's sound bites and clips and anything that I can do to encourage you. And, you know, I never know where we are, if a break's coming up or not, so you'll have to guide me here. But the reason I wrote about Hope Sees, maybe this would be helpful to mothers that we're talking to today as we celebrate Mother's Day. You know, you may be in a situation where not only have you felt stuck, but you feel like you have inefficiencies. And I want to say welcome to mankind. But it's in the middle of the challenge that we get to grow. It's in the middle of really maximizing the opportunity that we've been given in front of us, even if it looks to be awkward. And for me, it was losing my eyesight. You know, I want to look perfect before people, and I just don't. I was standing in the airport the other day. I was at the gate, headed to Wisconsin to speak, and I turned to my husband, and I was just talking away, telling him this awesome story. I was very animated, using my arms, not knowing he had walked over to the ticket counter to take care of our tickets. And so I'm literally talking to dead space. When finally a gentleman next to me said, "Ma'am, who are you talking to?" Well, I turned to him. I just smiled real big, and I said, "Oh, I speak for a living. I'm just practicing." It broke the ice. You know, he thought it was fine what I was doing, and of course it's a funny story. But the truth of the matter is, Tamara, all of us have dead space. You know, what are we practicing?
Right. Right.
We're waiting as a mother saying, well, I can't get this right. Well, who are you waiting for that's going to show up to take your place? You are the mom.
You just hit on something that I wish every parent out there would know. In today's society, Gail, it seems like we are told we have to trust the experts. These are the education experts. This is the physical or the doctor, the medical experts. Gail, God gave each of us the children He did, specifically, uniquely, knowing our gifts and personalities. We're the ones God gave and has entrusted with those children, and those children are the only things from earth that we may see in heaven. We won't take our riches, our jobs, our job degrees, or anything else. Our children are the only things we might have in heaven with us. We've got to go to another break. We'll be right back after these messages. I hope you'll stay tuned as Gail gives you more encouragement to tackle this role of motherhood. Right back.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back if you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
And I'm talking with Gail McWilliams. We're talking about motherhood. It's not an easy chore. And unfortunately, it's no longer lifted up as the value it should be in our world and in our culture. But that doesn't take the value away from it. It is still so incredibly important. And if God has blessed you with a child, then he has called you to the responsibility of raising that child, and he will equip you and empower you for it. Gail and I were talking just briefly during the break about some of the things you can do, easy things when your children are at home. And let me just say this as well. Discipline is part of it. Now, it shouldn't be when you're angry, and it shouldn't be in those threat scenarios I mentioned earlier in the show. But my husband, in his wisdom, said, you tell your kids ahead of time what's expected of them. Tell them how long you're going to be at this meeting or this church service, and that they'll need to sit still, or in this restaurant, that they'll need to use their inside voices, use the utensils, to be careful. One time my son looked at me and he said, Mom, I don't think I can behave much longer. He gave us good warning. And then what are the other things that you can do to help your kids? Just raise them up. You mentioned earlier, Gail, speaking life, and there are so many wonderful ways to do that when kids are young. I have grandchildren now, 4, by the way, and I was told that one of my grandchildren makes the comment when he sees the sky that God painted the sky because Grandma's trying to teach him everything out there is God's creation. All good and perfect gifts are from above. There's
beautiful.
The easy things, the singing with our kids, the easy things that we can do. Gail, give us some hope and some easy. Motherhood doesn't have to be this arduous task, heavy at our feet. It can be light. We can enjoy the day together.
In fact, I agree with you. It should be fun. I mean, this is an incredible journey that you and your children are on. I can remember I was trying to teach our children the concept of purity. What does that look like? And so I had asked my daughters at the time, it was before our son was born, but I said, I'm going to fix you a fine china breakfast in the morning, or a breakfast that we're going to have on fine china. And so come down looking your absolute best, your Sunday best. So it was so much fun. We made a memory right then and there. But I told them, just like Mommy keeps the china in a china cabinet where it's set apart and waiting for a special occasion that it will be used, I said the same way with your life. Really, it's the concept of sanctification. It's the setting apart.
Yes.
That your life's like fine china. And so if your life's like fine china, you're not going to just throw away this plate at the end of the day. You're not going to make it all muddy and greasy and break it up. Why would you do that with your life either? Keep your life. You know, I talk to them about what it is to guard your heart. The memories. Moms, come on, make some awesome memories with your kids. I remember doing some treasure hunts with the children, and they had riddles, and we would have to go, to whatever the next riddle would bring us to. And it was a pizza parlor, and then it was an ice cream shop, and then it was a fun park. Be creative. And you say, well, I'm too tired at the end of the day. I'm telling you, it will re-energize you.
Yes.
When you see the laughter and the fun with your children. And also have conversation. It seems like we go through drive-thrus all the time. We're talking to our children over our shoulder. They're in the back seat, eating something fast because we're off to a soccer game or some other kind of meeting. What is it to turn face-to-face, to just say, hey, how about this? To your teens, what's your greatest challenge? And how can I help you? How can I pray for you? Mm-hmm. For your little guy, what is it you would like to learn next? What can we learn next together? You'd be surprised what comes out of the mouth of children.
When we started homeschooling, we were telling a couple how much fun we were having. They had been homeschooling, and actually they were one of the inspirations to us. But they were very performance-oriented and very a little bit different tenor, I think, in their homeschool. Because when we said we have so much fun, their kids looked at us like they were surprised that we were enjoying homeschooling. Well, I felt so inferior to teaching some of those subjects, but someone said it's God's way of teaching 2 generations at once. And the other thing I would add is humor. My grandma told me, if you can't laugh at yourself, others will pick up the slack. And so my daughter-in-law sent me today a video of my granddaughter waving her blankie throughout the house. She was waving the smoke away. The alarm had gone off when Mom was cooking. And she said, I'm told you'll appreciate this. Well, my kids said that's how they knew breakfast was ready, when the smoke alarm went off. So, we laughed. There was a meme recently on Facebook that said, if only the smoke alarm could just say, never mind, it's me cooking, and then it would shut off. It would be so much better. But
imagine, since having lost my children gradually with each of the children, imagine what I fixed them for dinner. I can remember one morning fixing our son a protein drink before he left for school, and I thought I grabbed the berries, but I guess I got the broccoli. So when I handed it to him, he said, Mom, what is all this green stuff? Well, suddenly I realized, oh my gosh, I put the broccoli in it. And I said, hey, it works for Popeye. I'm sure it'll work for you today. Have a good one. And I think what happens are 2 things. We want our children to make us look great. What if we turn that around to say, what can I invest in them because they are great?
Because they are great, not because we want them to look great or just perform great at the piano recital or the soccer game, but we want them to be great themselves, great in the Lord.
Absolutely. If I could just personally say to everyone listening today, whatever it is that you're facing, there's grace to get through it. We have to face not only our tallest fears, but to face some of the obstacles in front of us. And when you have vision, you can do that because you're not alone. And the other thing is, if you lack wisdom, James out of the Bible says, ask and God will give it liberally to you. Not holding back, not just giving you a spoonful, liberally he will give it to you. And so you have wisdom, you have strategies, you have value, and to know that you've been chosen. And the children, if I can go back to the analogy I used earlier about trying to sharpen the arrows, at the point of the arrows and making sure the fletchings are just position so that they are hit the target every time. Here's what happens. In order for that arrow to fly, it has to have the tension of the bow. And some of you feel like you're failures because there's been tension in your home. No, it's in the middle of that tension that you're growing. You're learning the characteristics of Christ. You're growing in his principles. And in time, in the middle of that tension, with the hand of the great archer, the designer of family, the designer of life, he will pull back and release those arrows to places you couldn't imagine, and yet you were part of it. You were part of the tapestry. The goal for my life is that my children can step from my shoulders into their role in their generation and impact it with not only purpose, but enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey. Gail McWilliams, you can find her at gailmcwilliams.com. Now you see exactly why I wanted her to be the one, the woman, to encourage so many of you this Mother's Day. Understand the beauty of the task that you have, the reward that is there every day when you tuck the kids into bed. How's this saying? There was never such a perfect child that there wasn't a mother ready for them to take a nap. We get it. We understand it. But what a privilege God has given you with these kids. And she talked about the wisdom of James 5, and I would add Philippians 1:6. God will be faithful to complete in you whatever he has started.
Yeah.
And if he's given you those children, he will equip you and give you everything you need for those children. Our greatest challenge, I think, is to realize those things are not material things that we hold, but virtues that we give and education that we train and value and train them for eternity, not just here on earth, but for eternity. Thank you, Gail Williams. My friends, I hope you've been encouraged. I would tell you, never be complacent.